Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of JKL Media Reviews, where we're reviewing a lot of things. Our main thrust right now is The Expanse, but we are doing one-offs or two-offs. Lou picked Rush last time. Jesse picked Springsteen the time before that. So it was my choice. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm an avid hardcore reader. And I'm not seeing gasping on anybody's face here. It's pretty well known. And one of the books that I have enjoyed over the last couple of years is called Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And it's a young adult fantasy romantasy book. And it's in our genre area with it being like a fairy tale fantasy sort of thing. So I kind of wanted to get a feel for how Jesse and Lou would like it. I'm pretty sure Jesse's okay. I think Lou probably wasn't as hyped on it, but I would like to find out what his thoughts are. So I'm going to start with you, Lou. Yeah,
Okay.
put you on the spot.
I'm really curious to find out about what is it about this book that you really like. So that's more interesting to me than my reaction to the book. And we'll get into a bit more why I'm curious about that. But for me, I'm not a romance reader by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even like romance movies, and I know Jesse watches Hallmark movies. Is something I could never sit through. So this was a interesting exercise for me, and I don't want to spend on this whole podcast coming off as a negative nanny. I'm not certainly not going to yuck on somebody else's yum because I think that you should like what you like, and I can only tell you why certain things work for me and other things don't. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And all I'll say about this book is it did nothing to change my opinions about romance novels.
Okay. How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I like this. I like the premise, not necessarily the friends to enemy to friends and the you've got mail kind of twist on it. The what I did is the world that it was set in. I shared very early that the Kurt Busiek had he only there's only two trade paperbacks out, but Errol Smith, which is a series where it's set during World War One, but with magic. And I remember in history class in college that the reason World War One was so horrible is that in the past, war, while ugly, had been more small scale. And all of a sudden, this industrial revolution and this tech that we had made as a society was all of it using for mass destruction. So it changed how war was. And unfortunately, war continues to, we don't go, God, this is so horrible. We should never do this again. So yeah, I like that time period and the idea that anytime you can put in a world where you have magic, but it's in a very limited scope, and the idea that gods are warring is interesting. So I like the premise of the book. I ended up liking the characters. Yes, I am a sucker for love stories, and I am a member of a group that supports a podcast about Hallmark movies. And the other thing I was thinking, I can't remember his name, but the guy who started the Comic Book Buyer's Guide
Hmm.
newsletter, there was a thing where he said, I think it was Dan Thompson, and he said, if you like this sort of thing, you're going to like this thing. And so I like this sort of thing, so I liked this thing. And if you don't like this sort of thing, I can understand you going, I don't like this thing because I think it's really well done, but Sinners took a vampire movie that you think you can't do anything new with vampires and Ryan Coogling and Michael B. Jordan figured out a way to do it different so that even I, who don't like horror movies, go, God, that was really great. I don't think this is does anything like that, except it's a damn fine story with good characters.
Awesome. One of my things was going to be, how do you like the setting? So I'm glad you answered that. What did you think of the setting, Lou?
Okay, this is the way I approach all stories, books, and what for me, for a good story to work is that it has to have a fleshed out world that places the characters in, takes them out of their comfort zone, and requires them to to take proactive action within that world. And the world is testing your character's personality is being tested by whatever's happening in the world. In this book, it's flipped. The world is built to support the characters because the characters are reactionary throughout the whole story. They're reporters, so they're in a passive role to begin with. So they're not being the story is not pushing the characters. Everything about the characters is because of their relationship between the two leads. I think the book is at its strongest when the two characters are apart. That was my favorite part of the book. I thought the first part of the book was really tough to get through. And well, I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little off track here. So let's go back to the setting. So this world has elements that are very interesting. You've got these gods warring, but we're not sure of the setting of the world. That is not fleshed out enough. It feels like 1930s
Mhm.
England, maybe, but you don't know for sure. And there's anachronisms because they have gas-powered vehicles, they have electricity, but they don't seem to have any form of radio or communication, which in my mind was done deliberately to allow this use of magical typewriters. So again, the world is being created to support the characters and not the other way around. And so for me, it was the things that we're interested in, the story never touches upon. Like these two gods, like we get a bit of a backstory, but we're told it, we're not shown it, which is another sin. And so to me, the world was frustrating because I really wanted to know more about these gods. I think there's a great story that could be told about those two gods fighting and have these other characters as supporting characters with the focus on the gods. So that's that's how I felt about the world building in this particular story.
Okay, cool. You might like the second book better.
I hope so.
I'll tell you that right now.
But
We already know that they're apart.
yeah, so
So,
I'm going to pose this question to you now, Karen, because,
sure.
and you can keep it in your mind when you're delving into various aspects of the story that you're going to talk about. Because for me, knowing you, when we review other things that are not YA focused, we seem to be in alignment on our priorities of what works and doesn't work for particular stories. Yet I get my impression, maybe false, is that your criteria for what makes a good story changes when you're reading this because the structure of this story, and it's, from my experience, is typical of a lot of romance novels, is not what you normally base your reviews on when you're reviewing other things. So I'm just curious as to how you're reconciling that when you're reading these types of books. And I'm also really curious why you chose these two particular books because are they what you consider to be at the pinnacle of this type of romance story, or is it because you just like these characters and you wanted to talk about them? I'm not sure what made you pick these books in particular over, say, any other romance story that potentially, I don't know, are these considered at the pinnacle of, if people say, oh, this is my top 10 list of romance novels, these books are up there, or are there other books? I'm just
I would
curious
say
about all of
like
that.
A Tale of Fire and Ice and all that. ACOTAR is the pinnacle. It's a series.
It's
It,
not the George Martin stuff, are you talking
no,
about?
no.
No, okay, let's go Fire and Ice.
And Rebecca Yarros has a series as well that are way up there. They're more in keeping with what you would think of what I like. I do have to tell you that my expectations change when I go into reading a book. When I read a Stephen King book or something, a science fiction book, Hail Mary, Project Hail Mary, or The Martian, or even Wool, Silo, that kind of thing, my expectations are very high. And to put it in an easy to understand way, I'm smart when I read those books. I kind of have to turn down that when I read stuff like this. And I think Rebecca Ross is a good writer. I do think that she sets things up nicely, but it's definitely not as intricate as other books. But for this kind of book, and you have to, I'm not saying you in particular, but people need to realize this is a young adult book. I really liked it. Even the other ACOTAR and the other series that I mentioned are also young adult romantasy books. The reason I picked these, they were books that I really enjoyed reading in, in a very light science fiction way, if that makes sense. And part of my whole ethos is that everything has romance. Every genre has romance in it.
Absolutely.
I am not saying this is anywhere near as good as the Stephen King book Fairy Tale. I'm not saying that. However, there's parts of this that kind of remind me of that type of story where the leads have to go on this journey to find out what's really happening and maybe save something. And one of my favorite tropes in romance is enemies to lovers. And this is very much in that vein. I thought the lead characters are sweet, and I especially liked how they made each other better. So there's a lot of factors that go into this. And part of it was I wanted you to read something that you wouldn't normally read. You in particular, Lou.
Yeah, no, that's all good. Yeah. No, I'm
Right.
just glad that my assumptions about why you were reacting to these stories was different from than the way that you did to normal stories is correct. And I understand we all have our comfort food stuff. We have things that we like that we really can't give a rational, objective backing for. It's just subjectively, this just makes me feel good. People like chocolate cake, other people like vanilla ice cream. It's just, you can't quantify that. But
People that like vanilla ice cream should be put in jail.
or
I'm
pineapple
sorry.
on pizza. But
I love pineapple on pizza.
there you go.
Yeah, and I think,
So
yeah,
I just want to be very clear that I'm not denigrating your love of this type of
sure.
story, okay?
I
Because
understand.
it's just not my jam. The reasons that I'm stating, and I don't want to come across as being negative because there's enough of that in the world, and
Yeah.
I just don't want to, yeah, sound like a sour old get off my lawn kind of dude.
You are,
Yeah, I'm
but
the
my
most
husband is
prickliest of
too.
the
And
three of us.
yeah, I can be that way sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I went into this knowing that your opinion was going to be vastly different from my
Mm.
opinion. And I kind of like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think yes, when I share something that I love in a very small way, when someone doesn't love it as well, my heart breaks a little bit. But
Yep.
I also, you know, whatever sadness you get is amplified when it clicks. When we watched the Little Steven documentary, and both of you are like, I had no idea how much this guy had done. God, that was fascinating, right?
Yeah,
Makes up for this one. I just didn't, this was okay.
sure.
So, yeah. And so when I setting the stage, when I'm presenting my case and thoughts, and if I address some of your questions, Lou, is for discussion, not to try to convince you that,
Yep.
see it a different way.
Yeah.
It
And you
is,
had that reverse dynamic with Rush because I could tell that
yeah,
it wasn't really your jam, but
yeah. But
you
I
know,
enjoyed
the
getting
discussion.
to hear
Yeah.
something that you love so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then
And
that's what
conversely, it isn't a book I would put in my top 10. But
of
it's
any
something,
genre. Or are you talking just romance?
any genre, to
Okay.
be fair, fantasy in particular. But It was a really big hit when it came out. It was all over the place.
I can see it's got 789,799 ratings on Goodreads.
Yep,
I'm going, wow.
it was a big deal.
But
And
romance books are the number one selling
they
genre.
are.
So
Yeah.
this is just cold hard evidence of that.
And again, I do realize when I pick up a book, it's young adult fantasy. They're not going to build a world like Project Hail Mary, which is meant for adults, right? It is science fiction. This is a fantasy. This is light, fun. Hey, young adults can get into this. It's going to hit. She's a decent writer. Let's let her build a world and people will enjoy it. And I do concede that this definitely isn't meant for everybody. And the fact that our dynamic is that it's okay, and this isn't a woe is me thing, but it's two guys and one girl.
Yeah.
I like to pick things that are going to be different than the other stuff we talk about, right? Because
Yep.
you guys love guy things. I'll say that right now. And I am very much in that same vein. I like guy things, science fiction. My husband married me because I swore and I like science fiction.
Yeah.
And I was a fast driver.
Okay,
But
I'm sure there's a story behind that.
no, it was just the guy things that he liked about me.
Oh.
I swore like a sailor and
Oh,
all
okay.
that. Loved comic books and playing Magic the Gathering, just guy things, right? But there's a side of me that is decidedly girl. And romance is a big part of that. And so this is part of me saying, hey, this is a part of me, and I would love for you guys to share your opinion of it. And even if that opinion is, I don't like it, I kind of dig that. And I figured at least I'd have one ally here in Jesse. But I
Well,
do love hearing what you think of it, Lou.
yeah. And I think that these are actually the most interesting conversations that we have because when
Same.
we're all in agreement, it's okay, that was good, but yeah, we didn't really explore any new ground. Whereas here, we're definitely opening up new territory, and I
Right.
appreciate the opportunity. And you're right, this is not a book that I would have read voluntarily if you hadn't have picked it. So it's always good to dip into another pool that you don't normally go into.
Absolutely.
And it helps you refine your opinions about the things that you do and the things that you don't like at the
Sure.
same time.
Sure. And you learned a little bit more about me when
Yeah.
you read something like this too. Because I feel like we're very good friends, even though we've never met in real life. There's parts of me that you guys don't know. And the same goes for you guys. There's parts of you that I don't know.
Look, I don't want to know
Uh,
what you and Sean do in the bedroom.
yeah,
Okay?
no.
I don't need to know that.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Talk about
Yeah,
vanilla.
especially
That would be my
with
thought.
Yeah,
I'm
talk
very
about
vanilla.
vanilla.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of a preface. And I do want to say I appreciate you guys jumping in on this. I did give a list of books, and you guys were very kind to say whatever you pick. Speaking of my husband, he's the one that said this one sounds the most interesting to me. So you guys should
Had
read
he
this
read
one.
it?
No,
Oh, okay.
he has
So we can
dyslexia.
all blame Sean.
Yeah, he has dyslexia, so he doesn't read very
Hmm,
much.
okay.
The last book he read was The Odyssey, which he was forced to read in high
Hmm.
school.
You should try
So,
audiobooks.
yeah, he listens to audiobooks
Hmm.
sometimes, but he thought this one sounded the most intriguing out of all of them. I was kind of leaning towards a book by K.A. Lind about the Black Dahlia murder set in a kind of fantasy world, which I'm thinking I will pick at some point down the road. But anyway, getting back to Divine Rivals, there are some plot conveniences, definitely 100% in this
Yes,
book.
can we talk about the magic typewriters?
Yes, that's where I'm going.
Okay, good.
Again, we get magic, and I do think that this is set in a out of time timeline. It's not our timeline. It's a whole new,
Well,
different,
yeah, it's not our world.
but it's out of time for me. You can sometimes see them in olden times, but then they have jumpsuits, they have much newer vernaculars and all that. So it's kind of that when you watch a show and they've got flip phones, but they have fast cars and it's all out of time. That's the feeling I get. And the typewriters to me, they look olden time typewriters in my head.
Yep.
And I love this kind of the way they communicate and an almost a you've got mail type thing where she is writing. First, she's writing to her brother, Forrest, and then Roman comes back with the I'm not your brother, just very terse. And knowing how they felt about each other, where they had this animosity, but Roman, I think, was half in love with her already. And he got to know her through those letters because she wasn't open to him otherwise. So this is the way that he finds out about her. And she is using it as an outlet because of her terrible home life, right? So let's talk about the typewriters. I'm assuming that it's a pretty trite convenience, but I thought it was novel that they had a way to communicate, even though we know in this world it's newspapers, it's not telephones or TVs or whatever. So I'll start with you, Jesse.
Yeah, I liked this one. At first, you're confused how this is happening. Are they in the same rooming house or something, right? And to find out that they are descendants of people that were together, that were friends, that were more than friends. This siblings in support is nice. I remember, speaking of Hail Mary or The Martian, someone complained it sure is convenient that your hero in The Martian happens to be someone who's a botanist. And you're like, okay, yeah, I guess that's convenient, but I'm writing the story, right? I have a link. The idea is, okay, how do I get these two people to communicate? Okay, we could do magic typewriters. Okay, where does the magic typewriters? Oh, it's not every typewriter. These are special typewriters that come. And so you give that. I also love the fact that I'm a sucker of elders giving support, right? Like Gran supporting her grandson, especially when she sees that his father and his mother are both not caring about him, only caring about their place in society and how they can make it better. And he is just a tool. One of my favorite writers, Sarah Kafina Goodman or Gavina Foodman, she has a new book out that's set during 60s, and she wants to be a reporter, and as a woman in the 60s, the only way you can be a reporter is if you work on fashion pages, and she wants to do hard news, and there is an enemies to lovers subplot that, and they ends up being a twist that makes it pretty cool. So yeah, I like the idea of the magic typewriter. I also picture the a typewriter that's portable enough that it's in a something you carry.
Okay.
Yeah, and that manual typing that. Pretty cool. I thought, yes, it may be the McGovern or not MacGuffin, but it was a good MacGuffin and it worked for me.
Okay. How about you, Lou?
Question. There's three typewriters. What does the third typewriter come into play in the second book?
I
Or is that
don't
too...
think so.
Okay, because
I don't remember, but I
right
don't
off
think so.
right off the bat, my first question was, okay, so these typewriters are connected to each other. So when she's sending this message across, and at first I thought had something to do with the closet door, but then we found
Mhm.
out. I said, is he the only one getting the message, or is the other typewriter getting the message too?
So isn't the other one, I'm sorry to interrupt, isn't it in a museum?
Yeah.
And so
Okay,
that's why I'm thinking that's
but it still should have
it,
got the
it not
message.
active,
Okay,
right?
It
maybe.
doesn't
Is
have a user, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's my
that's what
thought,
I'm
at least.
connecting. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good answer, and I can buy that. My thoughts on this device where she's trying to subvert the probably one of the tropes that we hate the most in any story is if only these two people would talk to each other, then we could get this all resolved right away. So she's trying to give that to the readers, but at the same time, she's still allowing that trope of these two characters, just if they would just talk to each other, then this all would be out in the open and we wouldn't have this whole story, or the story wouldn't play out the way it plays out in the novel. So yeah, it's a magic world. So yeah, if you want to have magic typewriters to do this, I thought it was a bit of a, yeah, I don't know. It was just like you're doing this just so you don't have these characters really talk to each other, which, and one character is deceiving the other character, which I don't like either because
Mhm.
he's or not the person that she thinks he is. There's this element of the deceit going on as well. So I it was a novel idea. I just don't think it was implemented in the best way because of the deceit element
Sure.
that was being carried out through the whole thing. And I just, like I said, that the whole thing, if two characters would just talk to each other, this whole thing would be resolved in 2 minutes. It still exists throughout the whole length of the novel.
Sure. Most
Yeah,
of it, at least.
and I think, yeah, one of the Hallmark used to be really bad. There was a change a few years ago where they got a new head of Hallmark movies and they've tried to upgrade the script, still not certainly highbrow, but at least a little better. And but back in the day when they were even more cookie cutter than they are, that was almost a common trope. Every film had one of the leads overhearing the other one say, "Yeah, we can never be together." And then they walk off, and the rest of the sentence is, "But you know what? I'm going to try the hardest." They hear that part, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, and so that's a trope that they're also, when you find out that I've been deceiving you, now we have to be unhappy with each other and we have to stay fight, and that's half the movie. And versus, hey, you were lying about something too. I One of the things I liked about this is they acknowledge that. Of course, she's mad, but then because she cares about him, she's okay. Yeah, I'm not thrilled, but let's get past this.
Yeah, and I think part of that is that she finds that he's been keeping her letters and reading them, and
Yeah,
she sees that he had a valid reason. It's a dumb reason, but
yeah.
in his
It,
mind, he didn't want to
it,
betray her by saying, I read all your letters.
Yeah, and the idea that intent matters. And I think that's what she's giving him grace is the intent. I don't agree with his intent, but I can at least understand why he's doing that. You were to do it that way, but yeah.
Yeah. And this is, again, it's the romance background in me reading romance books. I've been reading them since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And it's a huge trope of I've deceived you, but now I got to do the big gesture,
Yeah.
right? And it's just something that I'm kind of used to in these
Yeah.
books, to be frank. And yeah, it's frustrating that you say to yourself, why don't you just tell her who you are?
Yeah.
But we wouldn't have this story. But you got to go back
Yeah.
to the story wouldn't be the same.
But we could have also gotten a better story. Is
Maybe.
what I'm my their feelings for each other right off the bat, or shortly into the story, then the story could have gone to a different level in my
Sure. I think she was trying to be different, doing the typewriter thing and being
yeah, I
star-crossed. Yeah.
I don't know this author, obviously I've never met her, but I
Sure.
sincerely think she knew the trope and she was
Yeah.
trying with the typewriter to subvert it to a
To
certain
be a little
degree.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I think every genre has its own tropes. If you
for sure.
Like when I was younger, went through a spell, this was like when I was in high school, of reading every Louis L'Amour Western I could
Yeah.
find, right? And there are a lot of tropes in Western, and that's part of the reason that these are comfort food. I know where this is and where they're going, and therefore it's not a heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And I think it is what it is, right? And I think you either buy the premise or you don't. You're either fan of this kind of work or you're not.
Yep.
And I, a horror film has to do something above and beyond for me to watch it because I don't like being scared. I don't like watching gore. And so therefore it's just to me, okay, yeah, bad things happen, people die, they defeat it, end of story. And I'm like, I don't need to see that. I don't enjoy that storyline. But if you give me something different, like I am really torn on am I going to watch Clayface? I know I
Mm-hmm.
won't go to the theater, but am I going to watch Clayface because it is Michael Flanagan? And
Right.
in the past, he does something different. But this looks like a pretty standard horror film right now. And I just don't know if that's something I want to watch. So I will probably wait and read reviews
Yeah.
and see is he doing something different?
You might have to wait a bit because I just read this morning that they want to recut the film and they want to actually add Batman to it. So I
Ah,
Oh
don't, I don't,
boy,
I don't know how long it's going to be delayed
that's
now.
extensive.
okay.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
that
expensive.
is.
So we'll have to
Okay.
see. I'm also curious about Flanagan's take on Carrie, which is going to
Yeah,
be a
see, like I have no
or
interest
is
I've
it an
never
Amazon
seen a
series, I
Carrie.
think.
I've never seen a Carrie movie. I have no interest in watching it. I've
Oh,
never
really?
read the book.
Oh, you have to watch the
I
original. I
I
mean,
no,
it's not
I
scary.
don't.
It's not gory.
Yeah,
So
but it just
it's
I
about
don't
bullying.
enjoy watching people being humiliated
Yeah.
and then her psychic powers destroying people. That story has no interest to me whatsoever.
I
However,
found it pretty cathartic.
it's Flanagan. I'm open to at least trying, right?
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. So I want to ask you about the whole God storyline here, Dakra and Enva. It's reminiscent of like the Greek and Roman, the Titans awakening and that sort of thing. God's bringing them out to wreak havoc on the population. And I liked these parts of the book. It might be my favorite parts of the book, where they're building this war and kind of the backstory of the war and why it's happening. Although we don't get all of it, we do get enough to say, okay, I don't know why they're at war with each other, but I'm looking forward to finding out more about them. At least that's what happened to me. I'll talk to you, Jesse, since your microphone's still on. What did you think
So
about Dakra and Enva?
I shared with you last week when we didn't get to record, but we were catching up. My One of my nitpicks is the formatting of when they're typing to each other on my Kindle. It's smaller and a
Yeah.
little tougher to read. Though I think it's a good storytelling technique, you can tell. Yeah, I think the the idea is that these gods are real. And I'm not saying that in our world gods aren't real. I'm just saying in this they interact. It is very much if you had your Greek or Roman or Norse gods interacting with human in a somewhat modern ceremony. And you could also use this as if superheroes were warring, right?
Hmm?
And that there is so much we end up being affected by this. We're hurt by their wake. So I thought that was a very interesting story. And once again, depending on who's telling the story, makes which god the hero and which one is not. There is, and I assume we're doing a little bit of spoilers in this.
Yeah. It's
When we,
it's an old enough book we
yeah,
can do spoil.
when we find out that our heroine's brother is fighting for the other side, as I said, spoilers, I am curious why, right? I'm hoping the next book explains more why he thinks that's the right side. And in my mind, this is like the World War II, right? The Allies and the Axis. It may not be that simple, that black and white. And I'm hoping it's not, because that will make for a better story.
It is revealed that he is being compelled to fight for
Yeah,
Doc Gray because of what happened, but there is more to that story.
yeah.
So, Lou, how about you?
Yeah, I that this was the most interesting but frustrating part of the book for me because I wanted to find out more about the gods. We only learned about these two to a limited amount, and it's weird to me, or that the fact that these two have this antagonistic relationship, yet somehow they get humans to fight these wars for them. I didn't get how the connection between the gods and the humans worked on that level. Like, why would humans care about whether or not he could enslave this other god? So that didn't make any sense to me, and it was just, I think she just again was creating this story element for supporting the characters rather than coming up with a much more fleshed out a thesis as to why this war is being fought in the first place. It was, yeah, it just didn't really hang together for me from that aspect. But I want to find out more about the gods and the magic of the world. Again, these are elements that are not explained or explored enough for me to make them feel real. Like the setting is not complete; it's nebulous, and that's frustrating for me. If it was taking place in our world, then you know what our world is about. So then you would have a little more feeling of realism or serendipity. And I don't think that this story has that because of that. And you can't help but compare how she handles gods to compare it to, say, somebody like, I don't know if you're familiar with her, Madeline Miller. She
Mm.
wrote Circe and the Song of Achilles. And
Yeah,
those go into the gods,
Cersei's
and
fantastic.
those books are fantastic.
I agree.
And if you read something like that, and then you come to something like this feels like the Reader's Digest version of
It's
that.
much
So
lighter. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. So, but because it's not fleshed out, it makes me hard to suspend my disbelief about what's happening.
sure.
And yeah, that's how I feel
Well,
about
I
that.
will give you this, that in our world, people fight over gods all the time, right? There's religious wars that don't make any sense to the other side, but they fight for
Yeah, but
their
what the gods
god.
represent in her story don't. When people fight for gods, it's because it's a set of moral codes, right? And that in this story, those gods don't really have moral codes. They just have they're selfish. They
Yeah,
have their own self-interests, nothing to do with supporting a religion
beliefs or,
or anything like that.
yeah.
So it just didn't hang together to me.
And there is a very minor mention of the fact that humans were the ones that imprisoned them when they were fighting. And I think that has more to do with why Dacra is doing what he's doing, that he wants to lay waste to things. And if he can get Enva's woken up, so now he's going to use that. And again, you're right. It's not spelled out in an easy way. It's nebulous, as you said, but she's not saying that she is a heavy author either. It's very much saying, hey, we're not Circe, we're divine rivals, and it's just a whole
Yeah,
different thing.
but yeah,
I
but
agree with you.
the
There's
reason I reference something like Circe is because I'm evaluating that book with a certain set of rules that I use for every book, regardless of what genre it is. And in this particular story, I find it lacking in cohesion.
sure, I get that. So we have the war, we have Roman and Iris coming together, we have Addie and Marisol and Keegan. I don't think any of them are incredibly deep characters, but they're likable to me.
Yep.
And then we have her brother Forrest, and he is part of the underlying story in this book, and we don't get him until the very last moment. When I first read this book, I was so heartbroken when it turned out to be her brother, when really we should be happy that she's reunited with her brother. And Forrest is one of those characters that in this book, you kind of hate him. He's not the person that we think he is. And that he's so callous about Roman, and he knows what's happened to him because it happened to himself, that this outline was drawn, and he recognizes that as being taken by Dockery. And I think he thinks he's doing the right thing, but it comes off as just cruel and evil. How did you feel when you found out that it was her brother instead of Roman? I'll talk to you first, Lou. What
Right.
did you think about them using her brother in this way?
He has been transformed by Dockery, so that like he was kind of the MacGuffin of the story. It's why everything that happened in the story happened. So the fact that he's not who I found him to be tragic,
Yeah.
actually, and not evil. And he's trying to do the best that he can considering the transformation that he's undergone. And I took this as to be foreshadowing for what's going to happen in the second book because what's his name? Roman? Roman?
Roman.
He's undergoing the same process as well. So I felt sorry for that character. And
Yeah, but Iris doesn't know that he's doing this against his will. She thinks he's being a bad guy, leaving Roman behind, fighting on the wrong side, all that sort of thing. And yeah, he's tragic to us, right? But I can't imagine how Iris would feel in that moment.
there's lots of things about Iris we could talk about,
Right,
but
yeah.
she's she just goes with the flow. And I'm surprised that she's not a very strong, independent woman in certain respects. But anytime there's a man in the room, she basically is subservient to them. So I didn't really like yeah, she was obviously is a little perplexed about her brother's behavior, and yet at the same time she listens to him. If she was really set on rescuing her husband, then she should have gone and rescued him instead of listening to her brother. So I didn't really empathize with her too much with her reaction to how her brother was reacting.
Okay. How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I understood. This is her big brother, someone she has looked up to her whole life. She doesn't have her mother anymore. I thought that was a fun, nice storyline. Her mother responsible and losing her affected her a lot. And so I could see her wanting almost in a trance that, oh my gosh, this is my big brother. He's here. I'm going to trust him. And also, they made it very clear that a lot of crap is going on around them. So I was okay. I gave her a little grace on that. Could certainly understand not giving it, but I was okay with that. Yeah, I was not as upset as you were about five. I was like, oh, that's a nice twist that he's fighting on the other side, but it didn't shock me and oh no, what a betrayal. It more
It,
to me like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder where we're going to go with that.
okay, cool. I don't know that there's a lot more to talk about here. Do you guys have anything else to add about this? I'll ask a question at the end, but anything else that struck you or a question or anything like that?
I think if
Well,
we want to go ahead.
go ahead, Jesse.
I was going to go, if we want to nitpick, some of this is Ivy's own fault. She should, she ends up taking control of herself, but she's a little too passive to begin with.
Hmm.
And I was glad to see, I think that's part of her journey. So I was glad to see that. I really liked that the subplot with Roman and his father. Once again, that's a very big trope, but I thought it was a good trope that I like, oh yeah, that's it. You should fight against what your family is forcing you to do. And I love the grandma just because I that always makes me happy when we have someone who does that. It makes me happy when we have that. So yeah, it was good.
Cool. How about you, Lou? You have anything else there?
Yeah, there was a couple of other tropes that were irritating to me. The one that is that everybody in the story knows that these two people are in love, except the two people.
Yeah,
Like like all the characters around them, they're always looking at her, and but they don't say the obvious thing. It's he likes you. They don't know.
yeah,
Nobody ever says that to her. They all just look at her and smile, and I'm going, really? And then, but the thing that really bugged me the most was when Roman came to the town to be with Iris, and she thought that he was there just to undermine her as a writer. And I thought to myself, really? Really? You think a guy's going to be that obsessed about putting you
beating you.
down? Like
Yeah,
it was so obvious why he was there, and that she couldn't see that because in other, she's such a great writer. She has great insights into people, and yet, and I understand that we often have a big blind spot when it comes to our feelings and that, but still, it just didn't do her character any favors that she was so
sure,
oblivious to his affection for her. And it again ties into the trope if only these two people would talk to each other kind of thing. So there was that stuff going on. I did like the inclusion of the mother or the not the mother, the woman that they were staying with, that her partner was
Marisol and
Yeah.
fighting.
Keegan. Yeah,
Yeah, that they were so that was like a relationship. That was a
Yeah,
believable
the same
relationship.
sex. I was really glad to see that. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
I
that
like,
was,
yeah,
some people might be turned off by the fact that it was same sex, but I just felt like their relationship as two people was much more believable than the stuff and that was going with Iris and that was going on with Iris and Roman. And I think it's to me, it's a big X that the book was better when those two characters were apart because then at least they acted like they had some sort of purpose or independence and that they had conflict with other people in their lives. Like she had conflict with her mother, he had conflict with her father. That then they felt like real people, but when they were together, it was just like, no, this is just too tropey for me to enjoy.
and
sure,
what I took that for is a show of where they want to go, perhaps. And the idea, this is similar to we're talking about the on the Expanse, the Anna character being separated from her spouse. And this is the same thing, right? It's supporting that and doing that. So I think that's, and we got to remember these are very young characters. Roman and Ivy are 19 at most. In fact,
Iris is
one of
18.
the, huh?
Iris is 18,
Yeah.
yeah, and
according to
he's
the summary
19.
here, and he's
So,
Yep.
20.
Oh, 20. Okay,
Yeah.
and they talked about one of the criticisms was that they were too young to get married, and we thought this is wartime and there is this feeling that there's, and once again this is a trope, but there is a connection bigger than themselves. And part of the joy of reading a romance is that idea that you have a quote unquote soulmate and someone that fits, that you get together and they end up fitting together.
sure. Yeah, and that's kind of the comfort food of romance
Yes,
novels,
absolutely. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, one interesting question I had at the very end was when the Decra, De Decra,
Dacra, yeah,
Dacra, when he found Roman dying and he was trying to decide whether he was worthy for him to take back and revive or convert or whatever he's going to do with him. He said he was looking for people that were either really hot or really cold. And I would have thought that Roman would have been really hot, but apparently he's really cold. So that was interesting, and I'm assuming that maybe that's a seed planted for the next book where he's going to get converted from cold to hot. I don't know.
okay.
I
That
thought
was
I thought
my
I thought that was an interesting twist that I was a little surprised at.
okay. That's cool. So my following question, and you led me nicely into that, is do you have any inkling as to where we're going in the next book? How about you, Lou? You've already started on that.
Well, I think that she's going to decide that she wants to, now that she's found Forrester, now she's got a new thing to find as her husband. And I assume over the journey of doing that, Troll will accompany her, and the events of the story will bring him back closer to what he was at the beginning of the first book. And maybe he pays the ultimate sacrifice to get there. I don't know. And then once she finds Roman, there's going to be this whole idea or ordeal of getting him back to where he was as well.
Okay. How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I hope that we find out more about the background of the magic typewriters, and that will be a sub story that how these two are quote unquote destined to be together. I'm looking forward to that. I do think that as we explore more, we will find out more about the gods and interfering with things and where that goes through. I certainly don't think we're finished with Roman's family. That's going to give them problems. So and yeah, I think if I had to guess, I would think that she's going to spend more time away from her husband this time. And that's going to be part of what the story is. Don't know if I'm going to like that or not. I kind of think I would have enjoyed more them fighting things their own way together, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Yeah, there was a seed planted there about Roman's father, right? That he is doing something that has to do with the war.
Yeah,
And we're going to definitely find out more about that in the second book.
yeah.
I really want to thank you guys for indulging me here.
No,
And
thank you.
That's what
I
friends
hope
are.
at the end of all this that you say to yourself, okay, I get it. It's not my bag, but I understand that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And
um,
I hope that I have not tainted your joy of reading these types
no,
of stories.
absolutely not.
So that's what I'm
Um,
always worried about.
no, don't be afraid of that. We're friends. This is a safe space. And I knew going into this that any of those books that I picked, Jesse was going to like, and Lou, it was a crapshoot on. And that's just me knowing the person that you are as well. I wanted to pick something different,
If nothing
and
else, I am consistent.
that's true.
Sometimes
Um,
to my own detriment.
it's not a surprise. Your opinion is not a surprise to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
I was worried that you were going to just say, no, I don't want to talk about this. I didn't like it, so let's not talk about it. So I am glad that you do indulge me.
Yeah.
And
But like I said, I don't mind talking about it, but I just don't like being negative
sure,
on the internet because there's
but
just so much of that, right?
feel free. You can at least be as negative as it's not my thing. I see flaws in it here.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with
That's what I
that.
tried to do. I just try,
Yeah, you did.
I tried to provide the reasons as to why I've
Yeah.
reacted to the story the way I did, and I don't think it's anything capricious or excessive. And
No, not at all.
certainly don't want to alienate anybody, though I probably did any of the listeners who are
Nah.
romance novelist fans.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
We do, as a group, romance people know that it's not for everyone. And part of us bristles at that everything
sure.
is romance and all that. But part of us does understand people like what they like and they don't like what
Absolutely.
they don't
Yeah.
like.
Yep.
And that's who we are as people. And just as an ending note here, again, I'm so grateful that you guys read this and are willing to talk to me about it. And I hope, Lou, that you enjoyed the second book a little better. I
Mm.
am not going to promise you that it's your bag. I say right up front.
Yep. Fine.
Yeah, but I do think that
It's an interesting exercise to find out more about you for me.
that's awesome. As long as it's not painting me in a
Nope.
bad light.
No,
It's all like
because I like stuff that you're probably thinking, why the hell does he like that? But like,
untrue. I
it's
like most of the stuff you like, to be
yeah,
fair.
but it's subjective. And that there's some things
Sure.
that's just in your DNA that you just, like I
Yeah.
said, like some people like
And
chocolate ice cream, some like vanilla.
vanilla. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say also that a lot of this is nostalgic for me. The reason I got into romance novels in the first place is because my mother was very much into reading romance novels. It was an escape for her. She had a pretty tough home life growing up, and I think that romance novels gave her a world that she could escape to.
Mhm.
And so growing up, I picked that up from her, and it's something that ties me back to her, and I miss her all the time. And this is a way that I can say, oh, my mom would have really loved this book. She wouldn't have liked this book. I'll tell you right up front. She wasn't into science fiction or anything like
Okay. It
that.
had to be
So
grounded in the real world.
fantasy, as much as romance is, she liked to identify with what
Yeah.
was happening.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have hated it,
Mhm.
but it wasn't up her alley. She liked Star Wars and stuff like that, but fantasy novels wasn't her thing. I do have this propensity towards it because of my mother, and you guys don't have that, right? So we're never gonna line up on that kind of nostalgic thing, but I was hoping there were parts of the fantasy that you might appreciate. And I do think there are parts of it that you're intrigued about, Lou, the gods and all that kind of thing. And so I'm hoping the second book brings more of that for you. And Jesse, I hope that you find more about Roman and Iris in
Yep.
the next book.
I'm enjoying the journey.
Okay, cool. So with that, I will say that we will be talking about Ruthless Vows next, which is the second book. And this was always meant to be one story, both books, but she couldn't write the whole thing as one book because the YA format is that you kind of have to have the page count fall into a certain amount.
Right.
Third volume coming out as well, right?
There's a third book, but it's a preface.
Okay. Okay.
So it's
We
not
get an
important.
ending next book.
It's not
Okay.
important to this story. This
Okay.
story ends at the end of Ruthless Vows. With that, I'm going to say thank you guys so much for being here and talking to me about it. And thanks to the listeners for indulging me as well. I know my things don't really fall into that category of science fiction genre stuff, but I do like to do some offbeat things that people might pick up on and say, hey, I might want to read that. Let's say that you can email us at jklmediareviews@gmail.com. And where can they find you, Lou?
They can find me at this YouTube channel, JKL Media Reviews, where we have our reviews of limited series that we usually do. Currently, we're doing The Expanse. So we're waiting for Pluribus and Severance to return. We've done one-offs on books, movies, music, though we should have a subcategory for Jesse with Bruce Springsteen because we've done multiple Springsteen episodes
We
now.
do have a playlist of Bruce Springsteen
There you
things.
go. My own personal channel, Lou's YouTube channel, Lou's Reviews. I've got my Stephen King and the writers' interviews, as well as all our archived episode reviews of Babylon 5, the entire series, plus the animated movie. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you can find me at Lou W. Sytsma, Sytsma.
And how about you, Jesse?
I am available on most social media at Jesse Jackson DFW. Would love for you to reach out to me, follow. We are in the middle of discussing House of the Dragon on small council matters, having a lot of fun about that with this second season. And so would love for you guys to go over there and listen to that. And yes, coming up in September, there is another yet Springsteen documentary that I will have the guys watch to
Awesome.
celebrate. September is Bruce's birthday and it is the podcast birthday. So always like to try to do something fun for that.
Awesome. And also, in that same vein, we'll be talking about the Talisman series down the road because there's a new book coming out.
In November, Other World.
So that'll be coming up as well. So we
Mhm.
hope you guys look forward to that. You can find me at Elevaria on social media, and my blog is alliestuff.com. So with that, I will say thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
And scene.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.